Our last plenary session is on SME funding, from ideas to reality. And to moderate the session is a founding member of the Board of Trustees of WIMBIZ. She's also a pioneer in the events planning and management industry. She's a book writer, and she's the wonderful Mrs. Yewande Zacchaeus. Please put your hands together for her as she moderates this plenary session.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to what I'm sure is going to be a very interesting panel discussion this afternoon on SME funding from illusion to reality. It has almost become a cliche when we say that SMEs are the engine of growth in any economy. Everybody says that. We all know how important they are. And apparently, there are at least, in fact, over 9 million women-owned SMEs in over 140 countries, apparently accounting for about half the SMEs in the world. Research has shown that investing in women-owned businesses is extremely profitable, very good and essential for growth, and particularly good for communities, because we know that when women run their businesses, their profits are usually used to better the lives of their children and their families, not to take second husbands or buy fast cars. So it looks like a win-win from all situations. You know, women are there, they're doing well, the businesses are thriving. So why is it so difficult for us to get funding for our businesses? How can we be running over half the SMEs in the world, and it seems as if the men are the ones that have the advantage all the time? Some people say that maybe we are our own worst enemies. Maybe there's something we're doing as business owners that we're not doing right, that does not make us attractive to financial institutions to lend to us. Maybe there's some financial barriers that we face. Maybe there are cultural barriers that we face. There's so many things that affect this situation of funding. What are the options available to us? The almighty collateral. How many of us have landed property in Ikoyi and Victoria Island? And yet all of us are running businesses and we all want to scale up. Women are tired of running their businesses as hobbies. People really want to do serious business. People want to scale up, they want to go to the next level. But the financial institutions are simply not cooperating with us, or so we say. I have a fantastic panel today who are going to help us look at the reasons that we have the issues and what we can do to get out of this trap of not being able to access the funding. So it's my pleasure to invite my panelists, and I think they're all there. Ada Osakwe, please come up. Uloma Ike. Esther Dasanu. And yes, he's in the minority, the only guy, Akitude Oyebode. As my panelists settle down, I want to give an unusual introduction as an entrepreneur to this session. Rather unusual. Odwala, I'm sure you're ready for me.
If I tell you, say I love you, oh. My money, my body, now your own, oh baby.
30 billion for my account, yo. That's all we ask. I need 30 billion in my account. That's the problem with having somebody in the entertainment business moderate.
That was fantastic.
Thank you very much, ladies. I want us to have a really interactive session, and I've been meeting with my panelists. And what we've decided is that we're going to engage for half an hour, and we're going to leave half an hour for the question and answer session, because I know that there are going to be a lot of questions that people want to ask. So I'm going to start with Akitunde. Akitunde said something when we met earlier. He said, I'm a former banker and now a civil servant. I'm the kind of person entrepreneurs love to hate. However, Akitunde, no, actually, sorry. Before I begin, I had promised them that we're just going to take 1 minute each to say where we work. I know you all have their profiles in the brochure, but they'll just say for a minute what they're doing now and its relevance to our topic of today. Yes, please.
My name is Aki Everybody. Today, I'm the Executive Secretary of the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund. Before that, I ran SME banking for Stanbic IBTC Bank. So yes, I'm an ex-banker and a public servant, so I'm the guy that takes all the punches and all the blows.
Ada?
It's a pleasure to be here. I'm really blessed to have had a very varied career path, starting in investment banking and then moving into development finance, and then going into private sector, banking again, private equity investing, and then going to work for the federal government of Nigeria, so public sector. And then leaving and then deciding to start my own business, investing in others as well as rolling up my sleeves to build a business from ground up. So the common thread for all of that is financing, because it was always focused on being a provider of finance. But today, I'm also sitting here wearing a hat of someone who is currently seeking financing from others.
Excellent. So you're wearing two caps. I'll go to Loma.
Does this work? Okay, so right now I work with BOI, responsible for the microcredit program. There's a federal government microcredit program, which is the government enterprise and empowerment program. Prior to this, I had worked in IFC and also in the commercial bank, leading women's access to finance initiatives.
Is it working? Ngoma.
Can we give? Just
Yep.
okay, so maybe we should give another mic. Can we have another mic?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Esther Dasanu, and I currently lead the Women's Insurance Program at the International Finance Corporation. I've been working in development finance for a little over 10 years, and in between, I actually tried the entrepreneurship stunt as well, because I really wanted to understand what are women entrepreneurs feeling as they try to access financing, and what are the different, if you will, hurdles that they face both within the path of financing and outside.
Okay, we don't want to do pass the mic, so please can we have a microphone for her very quickly? Thank you. My first question will be to Akintunde. You have a mandate apparently at the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund to grant 60% of your loans to women. Why? First question. And how have you tried to ensure that this happens? Second question. And what has been the response of the women to this generous gender?
Thank you. So first, I heard about that mandate on Twitter. But internally, we had a goal initially to give at least 50% of our loans to women. But many times in public service, you make a rule and then you get overruled fairly quickly. So we got overruled fairly quickly to raise that to 60%. But I think it's first a realization that mainly for women-owned businesses, there's a double bottom line impact there where apart from the economic benefits, you tend to get a lot of social benefits, especially with micro and small-sized businesses where it then improves healthcare outcomes, education outcomes with the household. But more importantly, it's also a realization that women have, for a very long time, been locked out of the formal financing economy. And you find that, especially in markets like ours, where there's a heavy reliance on tangible collateral, particularly real estate, which culturally women don't own enough of. you always find that if you look at the lending book of most financial institutions, you'll find it heavily skewed towards men. So it was in realization of that that we actually went out to say, let's aggressively go look for women. Now, in response, today we've got a book size of about 4.6 billion. Women have approximately 2 billion of that. So it's 42% of our loan book. But what we found is that those women are primarily more on the micro side than on the small to medium scale side. So you find more women borrowing via unstructured, informal businesses. Therefore, it limits how much capital, at least how much debt capital you can put into those businesses. Now, but there's also a fundamental problem we've seen where it's actually the pipeline that creates this problem. So it's not a case of women getting turned down a lot more, at least not with our book. Our biggest challenge is we're not just seeing enough of the volumes coming through the door. So you can only give a loan when someone applies.
Fantastic. Now I'm going to take it to Uloma now, because what Akitode is saying is that they've got the loans, they have a mandate to give the loans to the women, but they don't even actually see the women coming. Uloma, BOI has a gender desk, as we're all aware. Ideally, you want to also assist women and make sure that they come to the table. Do you have the same experience Akitode has? And is it that the women themselves are not forthcoming? What are you tailoring your products to meet the women's needs? Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay, so BOI has a gender desk, and what it means is that we've put our stake on the floor. We were like, look, we want to deal with women. Right now, our target is to reach about 10% of our total assets, which our total assets right now is about 560 billion, and we want to be able to give 50 billion of this to women. Where we are now, we're at about 3%, only 20 billion. So it's a far cry, right? What we've done, yes, definitely we want more women to come, but what we find out as well is like a funnel, right? So when you see women saying that they're coming to banks to apply, a lot of times what they're doing is just trying to find out. They haven't started the application process. The application process doesn't go too far because we ask for business plan, and then the thing dies down. So what we've done, we have business service providers who we've accredited, and we've asked them, we've almost mandated how much they can charge. We've had auditors who we have a fixed fee for them. And we've looked at the clusters where women are, and we've developed products for that. Internally as well, we've looked at our credit processing. Prior to a few months ago, for a normal credit with us, it will almost be like 34 pages. And of course, even the relationship managers will be bogged down with writing that. So we've streamlined it to maybe like maximum 5 or 6 pages, where the questions that they actually ask is much simpler. You know, you can get all the information at once. But I think what is one of the key take-up points that we need to take away from this session is the fact that, for me, this is the best time for most women entrepreneurs. Almost every bank has some product or some segment that is targeting women. So this is the time for women to take advantage. But if we don't see the women coming, we're not going to give loans to women if we don't see them coming to actually apply and to stick through the process of what it is to get a loan from a bank.
You see, that's it. Women, we need to get there, and we need to have the patience and the tenacity to stick to it. Now I'm going to turn to Ada, who you're not the typical entrepreneur because you've had a very extensive career in banking and in the public sector, but 2 years ago you decided to go into your own business. Now I'd like you to just give us a summary of, has the fact that you've had a banking and financial background made it easier for you to access loans as an entrepreneur?
Absolutely, it has. The fact that I have that background has helped me move quicker, I would say, in terms of where we are with the business today. It's not impossible not to have it and begin and start growing, but I think it's much quicker. If it's okay, I'd love to just very quickly pick on and pivot on some of the things that have been said already. I can really love to hear what are you doing about it, at the fact that the women aren't coming in through the door, and from the BOI perspective, because I think that to me isn't enough of a reason. I think we really need to do a lot more, and I'm bringing a perspective here of someone who truly believes in equity, the power of capital. I got tired of seeing young people coming into my office telling me that they tried to start a business and they couldn't get a loan. The bank didn't give me. They needed collateral. We've heard all of this here already today, and for many years, I believe, in the same platform at WIMBIZ. So I just feel like we need to look better at other spectrums and other forms of capital. And equity, for me, is one that is very, very important.
And it's really interesting, and I want you to go into that into a bit more detail. But just before you do that, I'm going to go to Uloma from the IFC.
Esther.
I'm sorry, Esther. Esther is from the IFC. But the reason, Esther and Uloma actually co-authored a report for the IFC, which was essentially to make it obvious that women businesses are actually, there's a good business case for lending to women-owned SMEs. Could you tell us a little bit about this report and the findings that you got from it?
Absolutely. So thank you, Yewande. I think when you were giving the earlier remarks, you actually covered good points of the report, which is the fact that we did find, indeed, that there are close to 10 million women-owned SMEs. And when I talk about women-owned SMEs, we're not talking about the informal business. We're talking about women who are registered and who have a credit need of roughly about $300 billion a year. However, as much as they have that need, when we were comparing women-owned SMEs and men-owned SMEs, because we needed to understand, so why is it that the men are the ones getting the funding and the women aren't? What we found is not that there are or are not discriminatory practices. In some instances there are, but it's not always the case. Very often the problem actually is in the way we start our businesses, right? So when we interviewed women entrepreneurs, very often what they would say is, okay, so I was trying to find an activity to do and I really like this type of thing, so I decided to open a business. Or I wanted flexible time in order to spend with my children and so on and so forth. I wasn't working anymore. I decided to start a business. Different, if you will, responses when you talk to men. Very structured. I was looking at an opportunity, I studied that opportunity, I developed it, I studied the risk that comes with that opportunity, created a whole plan, and was able to sell it. And so what we found is that structurally, we have issues, and that structural problem, if you will, follows the women entrepreneurs as they grow, which is why by the time they get to the banker or to the investor or the banker actually finds that business not so viable, and guess what? They don't want to take the risk.
Thank you so much, Uloma. So what we're saying is that women, we have to be strategic. The men are strategic about the businesses they go into. We suffer too much from the Me Too syndrome. My best friend is into this, so I think, and she's making money, so I want to go into that business. We must be very, very strategic about the businesses we go into, and we must begin right from inception to charge the course of that business and know that we're taking it seriously and it's not just a hobby. Akisha, I'm going to come back to you because I want you to tell us a little bit about what LSETF is doing. I think it's great for startups because you offer up to 5 million naira. So if you could just please tell us a bit about what documentation do we require and how do you go about getting a facility from the LSETF?
I think first, we made a conscious effort to ensure that our loan program was very collateral light. So because we recognize again that the lack of land titles, the lack of tangible collateral was a big challenge for businesses to scale. So we're very collateral light. We only ask for social collateral. We ask for 2 people at the most to guarantee you. Two people we know, if you can't pay for any reason, we can easily tuck their sleeves to get them to pay your loan back. Of course, because we're Lagos State parastatal, we ask that you are resident in Lagos, and you must show the residence registration agency card or have a number at least. You must obviously show us bank statements. And again, that's where we have a bit of a concern, where the proof of you being in business is your bank statement. So you tell us all these nice and fancy stories, but then your bank statements don't support all those assertions. So it's very important that you bank all your proceeds and bank it very quickly. We repeat it all the time, but people don't really listen to it. Then one last thing, for us, it's a very straightforward application process. Typically, and from early next year, you would see that within a 12-week period, we'll typically get a decision through. But the one thing I must add is that within our existing book today, now I don't know about tomorrow, but as of today, our female borrowers are 300 basis points better than men. So for us as well, there's an economic case to lend to women because, I mean, they're proven to be better borrowers for whatever reason there is, whether they're in businesses that are not so cash heavy, where they don't need to make a lot of capital expenses. And we're also, one last thing I'd like to add is we're also we're very comfortable to lend to people who work out of their homes. So we've created this flexibility. And to answer Ada's question around what are we doing to bring more women in, it's by making the restrictions very loose. So we don't say, oh, you must have a specific office, right? Because we understand that some people bake from home, some people run their fashion business from home, some people run their consulting businesses from home. So as long as you can just show us that there's a path to repaying your loan, more often than not, you'll get a good feedback from us.
I don't think it can be better than that. You know, they can give up to 5 million naira with just 2 personal guarantees, people who can guarantee that you'll pay back the facility. But all they're asking is that you can provide bank statements. If they don't see evidence that you're making money and that you're putting the cash back into the bank, how can they trust that you're going to repay? So you see, for everything we say, we have a responsibility to make sure that we are, attractive to these financial institutions that are at least being very generous and are less stringent in their loan requirements. Now, I'd like Ada to talk to us a little bit more about equity, because another thing is that we all assume that the only way we can fund our businesses is through debt. So Ada is going to tell us a little bit more. I mean, and I said to her, I thought it was actually only big businesses that could go to venture capitalists, but she says that that's not the case. So Ada, could you expatiate on that?
It's definitely not the case. And I try to tell people that sometimes it's as simple as going to your friends and family. You just have to make a case to them that this is what I want to do. To your point earlier on, being more structured about and doing the research behind the market opportunity. Yes, people dangle things like, oh, turning your passion into profit, all of that, but it still has to make sense. So being able to go to people and just, people you even meet here and make an impression, basically, they could potentially put money into your business. So that's the start. I was saying earlier on how I used to get so disillusioned with the banks here. And it's really the case in most of Africa. We already have a structural system where high inflation rates, high interest rates, you just have better financial, you can risk-free instruments to put your money into. So, and I tell people the banks are not in the business of funding startups. They're accountable to their shareholders, they're listed on the exchanges. Don't look at the banks at this very early stage because you want 4 million or you want 5 million to start a business. And as a result, Agrolay, we've decided to basically focus on giving early stage capital to businesses. So everything from, it could be 2 million naira to the highest we've done is in dollars is $50,000.
Is this only agro-processing businesses or any business?
So I focused on food because I then got the passion to do that. Food and agriculture, because I just believe it's really transformational for our economy. And there just wasn't enough being done. The bank's portfolios was about 3% in agriculture. Yes, everyone's talking about it now, but I feel there's still so much talk and there's not enough action. If you look at those portfolios, it's going to the big companies. I see, it's just not those who got really excited about the opportunity and said, oh, I have a farm, or my father has a farm and I want to do this. They get so quickly disillusioned because they were not giving them money. And I really, specifically, I want us to just, a theme that has kind of come out of here, I think the last session said it beautifully, issues around women having more confidence and being bolder. I say to people, be bold. Be bold as an entrepreneur, as a woman going out and, have that seat on the table. Because when you look at the stats, even in the sense of equity, it's not that easy. Yes, I'm saying don't go through the debt route because in our countries and structurally it's been tough. In other countries, the US debt is usually the first point of contact for startups. They have the small business associations and all that support them. But in our case, it's not really, it's not like that. For equity, even if you look at the stats, you're finding that women aren't bold enough. They're not, crowdfunding. You know what crowdfunding is? When you basically go online and say you're raising money to do something and individuals.
Do you think it could be that women are nervous about bringing outsiders into their businesses?
Maybe, but I really don't think so. I don't think so. I just data. They did about 450,000 campaigns. I think it was PwC that looked at the data. And they found that 87% of the successful campaigns, meaning that people who reach their targets were actually women-owned businesses. When they looked at the Africa data, it was very similar, about 11% more reaching their targets than men. But when you look at the sums, women raised $70 million compared to $240 million raised by men. Women were mostly on the under $1 million, while men were going, I want $5 billion, you know? They just don't care. Men are so bold and they're brash about it and they go for it. And I say this because I go out, yes, you may call me aggressive, whatever. I go out and give those numbers, but I'm also someone who, I don't know if it's a women mentality or whatever, or just maybe sometimes we're so finicky about wanting to make sure we can manage and can I pay back? I'm currently raising $1 million seed round for my company, for one of our companies. And I started off at 300,000. And one of my investors said to me, a lady, she says, why are you doing $300,000? 500. I was like, really? Okay, maybe I should. She said, for the plan you've raised, the vision you've put forth, you can do it, just do it. And without her knowing, I've moved from 500 to $1 million. And I still think that's even small for what we want. Just to let you know that even me, I get funny when it comes to being bold, but I think it's something we need to look into.
It's all of us, because in my earlier, thank you, Ada, thank you for that. In my earlier conversations with the panel, I was saying how I wanted to raise finance for a particular project, and I had everything, that I needed to do it. I had brilliant banks, and all of a sudden I just got cold feet, and I thought, do I really want to spend my 60s worrying about paying back some ridiculous amount of money with some interest? So really, no matter how experienced you are, exposed you are, it seems that it is a woman thing. We just don't have that appetite for risk, and we really need to get that appetite to be able to scale up and move to the next level. So, Esther, talking about other ways of raising finance, you were telling me about an insurance product you had, that women could use insurance to raise finance. Could you tell us about that?
Absolutely. So, you heard earlier this afternoon that AXA Mansard had launched the She initiative. So I think we should actually give them a round of applause, because that's actually the sole purpose as to why they launched this initiative. And it's an example of how Ada was saying earlier, that there are different types of mechanisms for funding your business. Equity is one of them, the bank loan is another, but do you actually know that the very thing that you have a tendency to run away from, insurance, I know very often it's a bad word, could actually be the one mechanism that you can actually leverage to either start or expand your business. The only thing is, you actually have to play a role in it. You have to buy the premium, you have to pay the premium over a certain period of time. But what that does is that it enables you to start savings towards that very business that you want to invest into. It enables you to structure yourself. And it also enables you to establish your reputation. Because as you're leveraging your insurer and paying that premium, that insurer ends up at some point in time being that very collateral that you're looking for to prove to the bank that you're actually a worthy customer. But very often, we have a tendency to overlook that, right? We think about insurance as it's the negative thing. I have to pay for something that I'm never going to be able to use. I don't even have the guarantee that, my children, as they say, might benefit from it when I die. That's changing. Insurers today are here and are finding ways to actually enable you to use the very money that you're saving towards for things that are, that you need right now, i.e. starting a business or expanding it.
Fantastic. That's a great innovation, and I hope a lot of our women will come and talk to you about that. Now, Uloma, we spoke about, we've been talking, and we realize now that it seems that the financial institution says we're ready to lend the women, but the women are not coming. In our earlier discussions, you spoke about something that we all termed the victim mentality, because I really want to take this back to us as entrepreneurs. What are we doing wrong? So can you tell me a little bit about that? What is it that women are doing that is just making us not attractive for these loans or not able to get these loans?
Okay, so let me phrase it differently. It's more like an entitlement mentality. So what happens a lot of times, you have a lot of financial institutions who have said, look, we have a product or we have a segment targeting women. And I mean, I've been there before, and sometimes the first thing that the woman would come, or the business owner would come, is to say, oh, why do you have this product for women? Is there an interest rebate because I'm a woman? And then we stop back and we say, no, what has happened, what is happening with the financial institutions is that they're bringing women to the table. But as you're having a discussion with someone who you're negotiating with, whether the person is your supplier, whether the person is your banker, you have to come prepared, right? So you actually need to know what you want. And there's no entitlement to getting any benefit because you're a woman. You're not going to talk to your supplier and say, okay, you know what, I need to get credit terms, and the only reason why I'm getting this credit term is because I'm a woman. The reason why you're going to get the credit terms is because you've paid back, you've done business with them, and there's room. The person can actually see that there's room for you to grow, and the person wants you to grow in their business. So I think we need to just step back and say, when you're having this discussion, when you're coming to BOI, when you're going to any bank, it doesn't matter who the bank is, especially if the bank has a credit program, first thing you must realize that the bank actually wants to do business with you. The bank has a mandate to grow its women-owned business portfolio. But you also have to come to the bank prepared. You also have to show the bank that, look, you know what, I'm a worthy person, I'm a worthy business to give this money to. Like I mentioned earlier, we have a 50 billion naira target, right? So we're not competing with men in that 50 billion naira, we're competing with women. So definitely, if I see Mrs. Zakios' business and I see Ada Osakwe's business, whoever it is that has a better business and can show me that they have a clear knowledge of the industry, they know where the income streams are going to come from, they've been persistent, they know this business in and out, that's who I'm going to give the money to. So even if I'm going to give the money to 100 women when I wanted to give to 200 women, it's the 100 women who have proven to me and are also persistent, because it's just like entrepreneurs do business. So you're in services, you're in agri. The lifeline for a bank is the money. That's the business that we do. So the only way we can also survive is also because we lend people money and we get back the money. So as much as you don't give credit to people you don't know, that's the same way we're not going to give credit, because that's the blood of our business. The minute we start giving credit to people who are not going to pay us back, that's the end. So I think in a nutshell, it's really to be prepared. There's no free lunch. You have to be prepared. You have to do your work. It's not enough for you to say, oh, I don't understand the numbers. The numbers are yours. You have to know the numbers. You don't have to know it to the T, but you at least have to convince someone that, look, this is my business. I'm disciplined enough. I'm not taking money out of my business. Even if I am, I can explain it. But you can't come to us and tell us that, oh, this is what I need, and it's a wish. I need 50 million naira. What do I need it for? There's a wish list. When your business cannot support it, or you haven't shown us the ways that you think your business will be able to support it.
Thank you so much, Uluma. So, we just have to be serious. First of all, we just have to be tenacious. Don't give up. Yes, it may take a while for you to get all the documentation together, but the men hang in there. They don't give up. So if it's important to you, don't give up. And I think we really need to examine ourselves. We need to examine our own motives for setting up our businesses. They're here. They've explained to us what it is that they want. And I think, well, when it comes to question and answers, you can also tell us maybe what the difficulties you've experienced are. Was that the 30 minutes time up? Yes, that was it. I'm just going to ask Akintunde one last question, because I want us to have explored as many different types of security that we can actually use for our loans apart from debt. And even though the LSETF, their own requirements are less stringent, you said that there's an opportunity now. There's a new collateral registry, and you also spoke about angel networks. Can you just shed a little bit of light on that?
So I think first up, I don't think that you shouldn't bash yourselves too hard. I think it's very difficult for anyone to borrow in Nigeria. So man, woman, it's a difficult situation, right? So I don't think that women are not putting their best foot forward. I don't think that at all. But I think also, it's also probably a very good time to be an entrepreneur, and especially if you're a female entrepreneur, because some of the barriers to lending, at least, are being removed one step at a time. So there's a national collateral registry today that allows lenders take a charge on movable assets of the borrowers. Now, before today, if you wanted a loan, you'd have had to bring a house, probably bring your granddad and your grandma as well. But these days, I mean, with the collateral registry, you can basically register a charge on your equipment, right? Which were generally equipment that no bank would take 2 years ago. At some point, that registry will move to start taking things like jewelry. So again, you have an opportunity to start unlocking capital from assets that were dead, right? And this is a process. So I wouldn't say this is not a period to get frustrated, right? Now, secondly, the point with, I think, angel networks is, and I think Adam made that point brilliantly. So today, inflation in Nigeria is north of 15%, right? So it means that for a bank to lend, to get a real return, they've got to be lending at least 22%, right? So because some of those loans will go bad, etc. So it becomes very difficult, because I don't know how many people in this room will borrow at 25% and still make a profit. I don't think there are very many. So it's very important to start thinking about using things like angel networks and crowdfunding opportunities. Now, there's a Lagos Angel Network, for example. There are a few other angel networks available. But as with anyone who's parting with their hard-earned money, right? So these are not like, so these are investors who typically come with some experience and want to invest and take equity risk with you. So they want to part own your business, right? So one of the things you've got to be able to do is give a part of your business away. Now that's not something that comes to us naturally, right? But you can't hold a small pie forever. So it's important to also understand that apart from giving you money, those angels bring something I find very critical in helping businesses grow. They bring experience, but more importantly, they bring an address book, right? So all of a sudden, you're looking to sell your products to 5 multinationals. Then they know someone who can make a phone call, who can put you in the room. And it's a very important reality. So we shouldn't cry about it. You are only as good as your address book. And so that's why coming here is a great thing. I mean, I always tell people, when you go to sessions like this, there are like 300-400 women in the room. Get as many cards as you can. 500.
1,200.
Sorry, I'm not wearing my glasses. I'll put that on. So with over 1,000 people in the room, you build your networks. You meet each other. It's a great opportunity to find angels in the room. But one thing I would say, and I think as like a last shot to, and I don't know if it's WIMBIZ. Everyone has asked WIMBIZ to do something today. But I think it's important to start having a lot more female angels. So if I look across the room, I see a lot of successful women. I think you can start putting your money where your mouth is. I think that you should start supporting younger women and taking that risk to support the next wave of female entrepreneurs. Thank you.
Yeah, that's fantastic, because Aki muted that all we need is if we get 100 women who can put, let's even say 2 million naira into a fund, that's 200 million. And then the women can lend to the younger women, of course, with terms and conditions. I think that would be brilliant. Yeah. And maybe it's something we will look at in the future. Yeah. Now, just before we start the question and answer, very quickly, Ada, I'd like you, I know that there's some other barriers that women may have. I think could you tell us a little bit about what you think the financial barriers are? What are the, pardon?
The non-financial or
okay, financial? I was actually going to ask about the cultural one, but okay, you want to talk about the non-financial? Talk specifically about education. Are we financially literate enough? Does this prevent us from actually accessing the funds we need? Is the education?
It does, but I don't want to lead with that, because anyone with a brilliant idea and someone who's done their research should be funded, be it equity or whatever. So I don't want to lead with that, to say that because you don't have a business degree or whatever, that I don't want us to focus on that. I just feel we need to put our foot forward.
Oh no, I don't even mean like a business degree. I just mean, do we, even as entrepreneurs, do we know our numbers? Do we understand our figures? Are we working hard enough on that so that we're able to actually present, put our best foot forward when we go to see the institutions?
I really, I don't know. I met with a lady over lunch. I think she was one of the recipients of your Impact Investing award here for WIMBIZ, and she says she started a platform that more or less helps women online to get more literate from the business standpoint. Yes. And I told her that's brilliant. We should do more of that. Yes. But I still think that there are many biases that exist. I think it's been spoken about here today, but you look at the fact that men, the median capital available to men entrepreneurs is 2 times that available to women. You're already starting from a point that, Harvard Business Review, they put out something last week, a report that showed that venture capitalists, so these same sort of angel networks, people who basically invest in businesses early on, they said that they found that the research showed that the men were harsher on women than men. So data is showing us stuff. I'm experiencing it. So we just have to keep talking about it and pushing. Yeah.
Ulama, just one last question for you. You're from Senegal and you've worked all over the world, in Europe, in America. I'm sorry, I keep calling you Ulama. Esther. In fact, you confused me because the day we met, you were best friends and you knew each other and you had both worked in IFC. So it's Esther I wanted to say. So I just want to know, the challenges we face in Africa, is it the same? Is it global that women face? I just want to know, very short answer. Is it global or is it something peculiarly African?
I think it's global.
Great.
Absolutely. I just think the difference between us in Africa and all the other countries that have gone through, as well as in the developed world, is perhaps the tools that we have at our disposals to make certain decisions, more informed decisions. That's the only thing. But other than that, the problem of financing with women remains the same.
Thank you so very much, my panelists. I hope our audience has been educated. And we'd love to hear from the audience. Could we please come up for the questions? I think we have about 20 minutes. And I know that, yes, there will be a lot of questions. So I would like to very respectfully ask that you please just ask one question, please. Please don't give us a lecture. Please don't give us your history, your name, where you work, and the question. Please make it very short so that the panelists will be able to give very quick answers. And can we just have the first three, please? I'll start with Feluke. Thank you.
Thank you. Mine is the comment. Having worked in banking for several years,
Sorry,
women
Feluke, can you move closer to the mic so we can hear?
Women are financially disciplined. Women will pay their loans compared to most male. However, what I see is that there's a missing link. So BOI and angel investors, they have a lot of funds available to women. But how is it that the women will make their proposal bankable? So what I believe we need is capacity building. And that's what we banks, whether it's the DFIs or whether it's the angel investors or whether even WIMBIZ, we need to be able to build capacity such that women will know the difference between cash flow and profit, receivable days on hands, those sort of things, because a lot of people don't know what it is. You ask them, what's a balance sheet? They don't know the difference between a balance sheet and an audited account. And these are very, very important for you to be able to get a loan from a bank. So capacity building is very important, just an advice.
Thank you very much, Feluke. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Adaku Ucheeko. I am a youth development consultant, but I am making a foray into agriculture. And I have reached out to the Bank of Industry and the Bank of Agriculture, and one of the things that they said is that you have to have been in business for 3 years. So my question is, what advice do you give, or how do business entrepreneurs, women especially, how do we get our foot in the door as startups? What resources can we access just to get started? Thank you.
Thank you. The lady on that queue, yes, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Toyin Onibanjo. I run a baby and a toddler food company, and I started from my kitchen. So I'm making a case. Ma, you wanted to talk about cultural barriers. So I'm making a case for those of us who started our businesses from our kitchen and trying to scale up. So I just need a word from you who have gone ahead. Most of the things we've talked about have been, we're afraid. Just one word for us. Just one word for people like us. You can do it. Just something. Just share an experience.
Okay. I'm going to give you, what's your name again?
My name is Toyin Onibanjo.
Toyin, I'm going to give you 3 words. 3 words. Do it afraid.
Thank you, ma'am.
Just do it. Okay, very quickly, capacity building. Akin, would you like to talk about that?
Okay, yeah. So I think very quickly, capacity building, for example, for us at the Employment Trust Fund, we don't just lend. So apart from lending to the businesses, We actually take them through financial literacy training. And you'll be amazed, this is not a gender-specific problem, right? We have people we've given loans to who say they didn't even understand how much they were meant to pay back on a monthly basis. You know, so training and capacity building must go hand in hand with supporting with access to finance.
Thank you. And just to let you know that through WIMCAP at WIMBIZ, we actually also offer capacity building training for entrepreneurs. So please, if you're interested, please see any member of the Secretariat, because that is really, really very important. And I think the last question was, you have to be in business for 3 years before you can get a facility. How do you get a foot in the door? Uloma.
Okay, so we have different types of products at BOI. So we have a product that is basically for startups, but it's for startups between 18 to 35, which is called the YES. And we have another one, which is a graduate entrepreneurship program. So for a lot of startups, they can fit into that. So you don't have to have been in business for 3 years or whatever it is, you're a startup. The only thing is that there's a specific age range, 18 and 35. So maybe the lady, we can talk about this later, but generally, BOI has two products or two programs for entrepreneurs between 18 and 35 that is not gender specific, so anybody can apply for it.
Great. So the next set of 3 questions, she's over here.
Okay. My name is Chizo Malize. I am the CEO of
Could you put the mic closer to you, please?
My name is Chizo Malize. I am the CEO of Brand Zone. We build and manage brands, and it's very interesting that Mr. Oyebode and Uloma will tell us about this sort of large amount of money sitting somewhere and people are waiting to access. Having built very remarkable Nigerian brands successfully, over the last few years, we've started to look at SME, and as SME catalysts, we've done fantastic engagements with that SME segment. And I engage with SME women a lot. Over 50% of these women can have access to that fund. And a lot of times, it's not just about, you've come from the bank, Uloma has come from the bank, and then there's a lot of gap between you and the people you are trying to give the money to. And just like Ms. Abodari mentioned about capacity building, you need people in the middle that can soil their hands and mess their hands and come down to their levels. And we're happy to help you with that, because the same principles that we are applying is the same principles the banks are applying. So there's huge gap in between. So let's help you close that gap. We that are ready to soil our hands, give them what they want, give you what you want, and we exhaust that funding.
So Chizo, you're going to help with capacity building. That's what you want to do. Thank you very much. Can I have the lady at that mic?
Good afternoon. My name is Samgem Songo. I'm from Johannesburg, South Africa, and I came here for
you're welcome to Nigeria.
Thank you. I am an ex-banker, and I'm currently a wealth coach consulting to individuals and small businesses. Now, a number of entrepreneurs think that funding is the problem or the barrier to their success. However, we've got a situation in South Africa right now where it is legislated that...
That mic is echoing. We can't hear you at all up here. Would you mind moving to this middle one? We couldn't hear anything you were saying. So sorry.
I was saying that I am in the business of consulting in finance to individuals and small business owners, and a number of entrepreneurs think that funding is the barrier to their success. However, we've got a situation in South Africa where it's been legislated that black-owned and female-owned companies need to be supported in terms of procurement by large businesses and advance the requisite funding as well. However, we're finding that we now have an issue where those small businesses don't have the requisite business acumen to actually operate profitably and sustainably. So I like the fact that you mentioned you've got sort of enterprise or small business development programs, but what have been your key success factors and how have you measured the impact of your intervention? Because it's quite one thing to give someone the theory of swimming, it's quite another to actually get in the water with them and ensure they float. Thank you.
Yes, can we have your question then, Will?
Okay, my name is Stella Okotete. I'm not here to ask a question. I'm just here to share information with ladies sitting here. I'm the Executive Director of Nigerian Export and Import Bank. It's Nexim Bank, Business Development. I happen to be one of the youngest appointees of President Muhammadu Buhari, thanks to him. We have a 500 billion export stimulation fund. So if you're a woman here, an exporter in this room, please try and see me to assess that fund. We also have an office in Ikoyi, somewhere on, I don't know, Gerrard Street. You could also visit the office for that. We also have a new product, which is the Women Export Fund. It's a 50 billion naira export fund at single digit, not 23%. It's a 7 to 9% interest rate. So please visit Nexim Bank. We are out here for business and we'll be able to scale you up.
Thank you very much indeed. So you see, we truly are moving from illusion to reality. Thank you. So where can they find you, please, madam? She's sitting in the front row there. So ladies, you can't miss her. Can you stand up again, please? Yes, so ladies who are into export, ladies who are interested, please see her after the session. Yes, I think it's your turn.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay, my name is Fanti Tukuwei, and I run an online food company. So I've been hearing 50 billion, millions of naira. I've been hearing so much money that people are not aware of. BOI has this, Nexim Bank has that. How do we connect to this? How have you made it? How have you created that awareness for SMEs? Because I know a lot of people with good businesses. I know a lot of people that need this money, but how have you people come down from where you are to connect with us? Thank you.
Akitude, will you answer the question from the lady from South Africa?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So, I think the lady asked two things.
Ladies, please, can we have some quiet, please? Ladies, please, can we have some quiet so that everybody can hear our panelists? Excuse me, we actually said after the session. Please, ladies, please. We know you're excited. Thank you very much. Okay, Akitude.
So I think the first point, to respond to her, we've now been doing this for 10 months. So our first impact assessment exercise is ongoing. So we'll be able to demonstrate not just lending impact, but socioeconomic impact from jobs created to healthcare and education outcomes in the families, etc. So that will happen. We'll get that report out in the next 3 weeks. So clearly, just assessing impact is a critical part of any development finance program. Now, to the other point around access to market and helping build acumen, etc. One of the things we do is we attach business development partners to our borrowers.
Quiet, please. Quiet, please. This is really useful information.
Who will
Thank you very
go
much.
to support those businesses on a periodic basis, mentor them, help them set up accounting systems, ensure they are compliant with tax and other regulations, HSE regulations, etc. So just letting people know there are all sorts of non-financial risks that affect how you do business. So it's very important that we take those people through our business development support program. So that's a critical part of any loan we give out. We don't lend without putting that support infrastructure in place.
Thank you very much. I saw 5 minutes about 2 seconds ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Ulama is just going to quickly answer the question about how do you know that there's all this money available.
Okay, so first of all, we've created a lot of awareness at BOI. So we have the BOI TV that talks about all the things that we do and how much we can lend. So basically the banks, I think not just BOI, every single bank has created awareness. But sometimes it's what you're looking out for. So for instance, now we have the Nigerian Content Fund. We have a $200 million fund that we're managing for people in the oil and gas sector. And men are already coming to talk to me about it. We've advertised, we've talked about it, it's in the papers. So sometimes it's just a question of, what is it that you're looking for? Like I said, there's the BOI TV where we talk about SMEs. We have the capacity building sessions every time. We're always talking at this type of forums. So I think basically just open your mind. We're available. You can go on the website. I don't think if you search for any financing option, you see some bank, whether it's BOI or another bank, that is trying to create as much awareness about the space that you're in.
Thank you very much. I know that I'm going to speak for the entrepreneurs and I'm going to beg for 5 more minutes. You gave all the other panels the extra time. So for the SMEs, just give us 5 more minutes. So just the 5 people here, if you can do your questions in a minute each, we'll quickly take all of them and they'll answer and we'll round up. Timilola.
I'm Temilola Adepetan.
So nobody should please join the queue anymore. Thank you.
CEO School Kids Limited. We have approached BOI. Yes, there's this huge fund. We started a backward integration last year. But how practical are your conditions? First of all, you have the single digits. Do you want me to use that one?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, so I said how practical are the conditions, the prerequisites to getting the loan. In the first place, let's say we needed, just hypothetically, 40 million. You're asking us to put down collateral. And then we tell you that, oh, we already have a working capital and overdraft facility with the bank, and our collateral is with that bank. And then you say, share the collateral with us. But of course, the other bank is not willing to share the collateral with you. Then you ask us for insurance, like an insurance bond. We approached 2 insurance companies, and they said they have stopped issuing insurance bonds. So how do you expect us to be able to access, let's say, for argument's sake, this 40 million? The conditions are, for instance, we were not told, this is the second time I'm hearing about the collateral registry that Mr. Oyebode has mentioned. Would you accept that, for instance? So that's my question.
Thank you. Very quickly.
Good afternoon. My name is Yetunde Oluide. I run a gift and also store.
Can't hear you.
Good afternoon. My name is Yetunde Oluide. I run a gift and also store. My question is to Mr. Oyebode. I'm very aware of LSITF fund, but from the point you fill the form online, fill all the details and stuff, what's the time frame before you're called off for an interview to access your business with all your documents? What's the time frame between when you fill the form and when you get called? Because sometimes you have to wait on any. And why are you giving just Computer Village boys? Why are you not giving SMEs that have their books? Because most of the people that I know that have gotten it are people in Computer Village in Lagos. I'm very aware.
Thank you. Yes, please. Very quick question, please.
Yes, please. My name is Adebisi Kuforiji. I'm CEO of Hindu Plastics. We're a plastics manufacturing firm. And for a woman to run a manufacturing firm in Nigeria is very hard. Plastics is controlled by Indians.
Madam, your question, please.
Pardon?
Your question, please.
Okay, sorry. Okay, I don't have a question. I have a suggestion. My suggestion is, BOI, please, give WIMBIZ 1 billion naira for 200 of us. Let them give us, seriously, let them give us 5 million naira each. I'm sure 5 million naira will help a lot of women here. 5 million naira just to do something. Trust us with that 1 billion and let's see where we go with that. Because it's not working.
Thank you very much.
BOI is not working.
Thank you very much. Could we quickly have your question, please? Trust is key. Please go on. Ladies, can we please hear her so we can round up very quickly? Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Tina Shaire. Can you hear me now? My name is Tina Shaire. I'm a lawyer turned a restaurateur. Last year, I got the ESP program scholarship, for which they gave me the scholarship actually. And then I asked for the loan. And then they called me to say that I was eligible for the loan. It's been a year since then. I haven't gotten that loan. It was first 5 million, and then they said because I'm a new business, they were going to give me 2 million. For me, the attraction was the 7% or 9% interest rate. So I kept pursuing and pursuing. And up until today, I haven't gotten that loan. What am I supposed to do?
Is this from BOI?
Yes, BOI, the ESP.
All right. Okay, last question, please. Don't worry, Uloma is ready for all of you. She has the answers.
I'm not going anywhere.
Okay, Falake, very quickly, last question.
Okay, I think mine is actually for Uloma and for Esther, the bestows on the panel.
On the IFC.
Yes. So I'm actually in a career. I'm not interested in doing business at the moment. I'm thriving and I'm succeeding in my career. However, what would be the criteria to be an angel investor? And where would be the best, industry or sector where I actually have the best returns? Just so that I don't always have to depend on Mr. Deleye for, dividends. Thank you.
Okay, what we'll do is, if you know the question was for you, can you just answer the question and round up so that we do it at the same time, just to save time?
So to the lady who asked us to stop giving loans to men in Computer Village, I mean, I think it's a great comment, but our loans go across men, women, and if you look at a number of our testimonials, you'll see women from 25 to 40 talk about how our loans have impacted their businesses. But the guys in Computer Village applied. We can't say no to them as well. But to the question around time frame, from January, we're going to have a quarterly disbursement cycle. So we're going to come every quarter, start in January, say end in March, and by the first week of April, the loans will be disbursed. Now, that period is necessary because apart from your application, we do all sorts of verifications and background checks on you, etc. And we want to give you a predictable timeline from start to finish. So I can tell you confidently that within 3 months, every 3-month cycle, there will be an application process that will start and finish. Thank you.
Thank you, Akin. Very quickly, Ada, some last words.
I think all the questions coming out again are going for loans, loans, loans. And I almost just want us to just break that mentality. Start thinking differently about how you can finance your business. Many of them are asking questions on what can we do, BOI. They're not going to do anything. It's been the same thing over and over. So look differently and use platforms like these to basically potentially set up an accelerator program for women in business, where you have the angel networks here, the powerful women here who have capital to basically start funding women in business. So you can come in, and accelerator programs allow you also to have training periods. So when you talk about capacity building, I heard that question earlier on. The accelerator program will be for like 15 weeks. You come in, you get support from branding, from the branding Amazon right here. You get support in, accounting, business, whatever. And then at the end of the day, you pitch your business. You pitch it to the women all here, and those who have capital and believe in you would fund it. So let's accept it's a model like LSETF that has no collateral, cheap loans. It just can't work. It's really tough. I'm sorry, Ulama, but really it's the case. It's really tough for startups to go to folks like you.
Okay, Esther, I'll let Ulama have the last word. Esther, some last words from you.
So for me, I think, as Ada said, it is tough, but I don't think that banks are meant to finance startups. There are other mechanisms to fund startups. And to the person who asked about the angel investing, I think the question that I would have for you before you decide to go into that is how much risk appetite do you have? Because that is what will determine the industry that you get involved into. So as far as last words, I would say there are different mechanisms. As women entrepreneurs, it is your role to find out what those mechanisms are, to understand them, to understand where your business is, and to find the right mechanism for it. And guess what? If you own a business, it's an asset, insure it.
Thank you, Esther. Uloma,
Okay,
final words,
yes.
briefly.
Okay, so I'll just talk briefly about the question. So yes, BOI is looking at the collateral registry. So basically what is going to happen is that a lot of your assets can be freed up to be used as collateral registry, to be used as collateral. The thing is that the collateral registry just started, so we're in the process of working with it. In terms of the lady who asked about the YES program, I'm really surprised about that because that is one program that we want to be able to give out the funds as quickly as possible. So I'll probably talk to her afterwards and find out what the issue is. I won't want to comment because it's specific to her and there might be other issues that haven't been raised here. And I think for me, the last word for me is really, I think this is really for me the best time to be a woman, a female entrepreneur, right? I mean, there's so many opportunities in terms of even just the fact that a few years ago, there were no banks who were looking at women-owned businesses. The fact that BOI has something, other banks have something, this is really the time that you decide what kind of business you want to do and how you want to scale your business. She's looking at me with a time up, so...
Yes, I will conclude, so in 1 minute. I think our panelists have done great justice to the topic. From illusion to reality. If I were asked to name this panel discussion, I would name it Show Me the Money. And I think they have shown us that the money is there. The money is there in billions. And that there are various opportunities for us to take from the different banks and financial institutions. As Ulama has said, so many banks are gender-focused now. We need to take advantage of it. But we need to think outside the box. We need to know that it's not only debt that can finance our businesses. We can go through equity, and we can go through angel networks, and we can use so many other opportunities. We need to to build structure. We need to start, for those who are just starting out their businesses, begin to keep your records. I was a legal and compliance officer for 13 years. I understand about documentation. Without documentation, you're not going to get far because the bank needs documentation to be able to say yes to your loans. Capacity building is key. We need to improve ourselves. We need to learn about our businesses. So wherever, and there's so many of these institutions that give capacity about WINCAT. Let us be bold. Let us be passionate. Let us tread where angels fare. Let us know that, there's nothing, at the end, it's going to be failure. So what if it's failure? Fail forward. Let's try it and pick ourselves if we fail. Let's do it with passion. It's all about passion. The lady said, give me one thing. If you're not passionate about the business you're in, if it's not something that you live for, you breathe for, then you're going to give up. But if it is your lifeblood, you need everything to take it where it has to go. So be bold. Be passionate, be confident, do it. Very much, Esther, Roma, Ada, and Akin. We've had a great time. Thank you.